So, we're heading into the next generation of gaming this year, and I find myself reflecting on the current generation with curiosity. I've primarily been a PlayStation gamer since the very first console. However, considering how this generation has been, I might be considering changing that for the next generation. That's not to say the PS4 has been lacking. I found myself roughly buying one game per month for the last 4 years. Overall, I'm very satisfied with the PlayStation 4. However, my reason for considering jumping ships concerns backwards compatibility. The Xbox One has been very underwhelming in delivering standout titles for the system. I can barely note 5 at best. Gears, Ori and the Wisps, Recall, Quantum Break, Halo 5 maybe? Joking aside, where Microsoft have truly shined is their dedication to making titles backwards compatible. I'm currently looking into rebuying titles I have on the PlayStation 3 for the Xbox 360 because their versions of the game hold more value with backwards compatibility. Not only that, but many games like the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy have enhanced upgrades making them the best versions available. Seriously, the work put into the Final Fantasy XIII game seems better than some of the HD remasters I've seen on the PlayStation 4. Yes, I'm looking at you, Ni no Kuni. With this in mind, looking at the current generation's lineup, I feel if Sony don't rise to meet Xbox standard of backwards compatibility, their versions of the game will be inferior and overall not be worth the investment. Sony used to be about the exclusives. When I think of PlayStation, I think of Final Fantasy, Metal Gear Solid, Tekken, Crash, Spyro, but as generations have gone by, we see them lose more and more titles that define the very nature of the console experience. Most recently, Kingdom Hearts and Yakuza also became multi-platform titles accessible by download. I'm aware Yakuza has already been ported to the PC before, but I'm talking on a purely console battleground here. So, with the lack of exclusives to pronounce the identity of their system, what does it come down to? Yes, performance, but I personally haven't even made a jump to 4K yet. My sitting area is rather small and I've settled for a 32-inch HD TV for now. But Microsoft was cheeky in releasing an upgrade later into the generation. So of course the Xbox One X will be superior to the PS4 Pro, and in 2019 to 2020, buying titles on the Xbox is the way to go for a 4K setup. But looking beyond performance, the nature of lasting value comes down to backwards compatibility. I want to grow a library of games in confidence that they will be accessible 10 years down the line. The biggest issue I have with the PS2 to this day is the lack of a reasonable method to expand it into HD. I've bought into many of the PS2 to PS3 HD collections, and I'm grateful for them, but sadly this is still a very small margin of the PS2 experience I want. I have a backwards compatible PS3 even, but it's very unstable and sounds like an airport, so I don't dare use it. When I do, it is placed in another room with a long HDMI cable to combat the noise. This problem due to the lack of backwards compatibility is why I've barely had a chance to expand my experience with the PlayStation 2. I know Sony offers backwards compatibility with the streaming service PlayStation Now, which despite having an average internet connection I had a very good experience testing. But once again, this is still only a selection of titles and of course under a subscription fee. I don't want to have the same complaint about PS3 and PS4 games down the line. Clearly with all the HD remasters we've had this generation, gamers want a way to experience their older games on a modern system, but should we have to keep rebuying the same game again and again? After a while it does begin to get tedious, and there will be a breaking point. With the recent press conference held by Mark Cerny regarding the PlayStation 5, it was mentioned there's a list of top 100 PS4 games in play length that we push forward for backwards compatibility. Sadly for me, the Order 1886 might not make the cut. But even with 100 top-tier PS4 titles on offer, it still pales in comparison to what the Xbox is offering with titles from every generation. I already mentioned about the lack of accessibility of PS2 games, but as time goes on, PS3 games may suffer from the same fate. With most games offering a 720p output, they simply can't be appreciated on a 4K setup, which going forward will become the standard if it isn't already. It's going to be interesting to see how the upcoming systems handle backwards compatibility. I personally feel Microsoft have made a better case so far. I'm hoping Sony realises the appeal backwards compatibility has to gamers, as I feel they need to step up their game next gen and take backwards compatibility seriously. I'm curious to know your thoughts on the matter. Does Microsoft's focus on backwards compatibility seem more appealing to you? Because it really could be the console changing factor for me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.